Hi, I'm Jim Kawashima, PrestigeLearning.com. On behalf of Prestige Learning and Olelo Community Television, welcome to the SAT Express. The SAT Express will be a series of short television shows designed to teach you everything you need to know about the SAT reasoning test, the test required of virtually everyone applying to college. Now, let me give you a bit of background about myself first. Just so you know it, I'm a teacher here in Hawaii. I'm also been a lawyer, so I realize I might have credibility issues. On that basis, I'll ask you to evaluate everything you see here with not just a grain of salt, but with a critical mindset. In later episodes, it'll become clear why that's so. In the meantime, you should know that I'm currently running the SAT program at Punahou School, and I'm a graduate of Iolani School, where over 25 years ago, I was one of the first SAT students, and shortly thereafter, one of the first SAT teachers as well. While I was at Princeton, I taught for a company called Pretest Review, which later gave rise to a company now known as Princeton Review. I worked for Princeton Review, PowerScore, and Kaplan, and thus, I can tell you for a fact, I've been involved in test prep for something on the order of 25 years now, and I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about. The important thing is that you understand what it is I'm talking about, and for that reason, I encourage you to stay tuned for the credits after the show, and be advised that my contact information will be there. In case you're not willing to wait till the end, you can email me at info@prestigelearning.com. That said, let's take a look at what this initial episode is geared for and about. Take a look at the screen here. Now, about a month ago, Hawaii's SAT scores were reported on by the Advertiser and the Star Bulletin. What they reported were that Hawaii's SAT scores ranked us 49th out of 50 states. Now, the DOE was quick to decry these results as meaningless. However, I think they do have meaning. I think it means that we're second from the bottom, fortunately, because it means we have almost nowhere to go but up. And I say this with no irony whatsoever. The reason I'm doing this show and the reason I'm sharing this information with you is that when we rank this low, all our students need is a little bit more information about the exam, how it's taken, and how to excel on it to make a big difference in where we stand as far as the states go. Again, small can make big differences, and that's why I'm here today. That said, take a look at the screen. I'd like to share with you some facts and fictions about the SAT. For example, fact or fiction, the SAT is only for college-bound students. That's actually a fact. There's no reason to take the SAT if you're not intending to go to college. It doesn't measure anything other than that. In that respect, fact or fiction, the SAT is not the most important college admissions factor. That's also a fact. People make a big deal about this exam, but it does not count more than, say, your grades or your teacher recommendations. Fact or fiction, the SAT is an intelligence test. Well, that's actually a pretty big fiction, even though, as I'll discuss later, there are organizations that recognize SAT results as an intelligence measure. Fact or fiction, you can't really prepare for the SAT. Well, I wouldn't be here if this weren't a fiction. It is, in fact, a fact, and here's why and how you should prepare. First, take a look at this. This is what's called a Poisson distribution, or a bell curve. It is how SAT scores, among many other scores, are normalized and graded. The reason it's important is so that you understand colleges will typically look at students who fall in the highest range of this bell curve. Now, because SAT prep does work and has been proven to work, this yellow bell curve can be warped into this red bell curve, which puts many more students at that higher level and makes the exam much less useful for grading purposes and college admissions purposes. As a result, whether they'll admit it or not, the College Board who writes the SAT will try to turn this red curve back into the yellow curve. And they'll do that by making the exam longer, more difficult, and more tricky. Fortunately, these are all changes that we can exploit. Now, before I go any further, share with you what the big secret of SAT prep is. In fact, I'll spell it out. The big secret of SAT prep. One word. I'm going to share with you over the next few episodes all the secrets of the exam, but just watching them on TV won't help you. You need to practice. Either practice with a mentor, a coach, or on your own, but unless you practice these questions yourself, you will not improve. All I can share with you now is how to practice intelligently. And keeping that in mind, let's start with, what it actually is. The SAT is commonly known as the Scholastic Aptitude Test. Commonly, but incorrectly, because in 1990 it changed its name from Scholastic Aptitude to Scholastic Assessment. After that, in 1995, got too much flack for being called even Scholastic, and they changed their name permanently to simply SAT. The SAT has to be exact. Now, the reason that's important is that you understand fundamentals about the exam have been changed. Here is the most current information we have on the SAT as it's currently given. First, there are not 2 but 3 sections. Your parents may remember only 2. They have since added a writing subject. There are 3 different subjects. Each subject is scored from 200 to 800 for a total score ranging from 600 to 2400. There is an essay as part of the writing section of the SAT. The essay is scored from 1 to 6 by 2 different graders who of course will grade and rank it from 2 to 12. The reason that's important is if those graders' scores vary by more than 1 point, if one gives you a 5 and another gives you a 3, a third grader comes in and gives it a more careful look. One way or another, your final essay score is ranked from 2 to 12, but in practice will only be ranked from 1 to 6. Total number of sections is 3 math, 3 reading, 3 writing, one of which is the essay. 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 10. Because we added an experimental section, which could be any of the 3 subjects. You won't know which section it is, you will know which subject, but don't try to figure out what the experimental section is. Take every section as if it counts. Total time, 3 hours, 45 minutes. Now that is only test time. There's going to be an introduction where you have to put your name down. There will be breaks, and you should expect to go in at 8 a.m. and come out at about 1 p.m. This is a very long exam, make no mistake about it. Many of your college exams will not be this long. The SAT takes a long time. And finally, only the best scores count, sort of. The reason I say sort of is only recently the SAT has begun invoking what it calls score choice, where you get to pick which SAT gets reported to the colleges and then none of the others do. About 50% of all the SAT take it more than once. You can choose your best set of scores. The reason that doesn't really matter is most colleges only look at your best scores anyway. If you did well in math and reading one time and then you take it again and did well in writing, they'll look at your best math, reading, and writing scores only. So to be honest, score choice doesn't really matter that much, even though it's been given to you now.